We've seen in the previous segment the variety of diets we have access to on our spectrum. Now, let's get into the reasons these diets make a difference to regeneration. We're going to see that this is at first a resource management issue. Here are 3 key factors to remember. Write these down so they really sink in. Number 1, the body is already infinitely intelligent. Number 2, regeneration is actually the norm. And 3, regeneration requires a surplus of energy. This thing we call a body is actually a community of trillions of cells communicating through trillions of chemical reactions every second. The body handles all of this seamlessly for you. The intelligence behind the scenes is always prioritizing what's best for us with what the body is given. It's an unfathomable amount of interactions, and it requires a lot of energy to run every day. Some of this energy is non-negotiable and required for systems that pump the heart, power the organs, and keep mission-critical systems running, so you can stay alive. There are other systems, however, that can vary in the amount of energy they use every day, and the digestive system is one of these. Digestion also happens to be one of the most taxing, energy-hogging systems in the body. Digestion uses up a massive amount of resources. So if we were to alter or streamline our digestion, we immediately free up energy that can then be used by other systems of the body. Systems like the immune system or the urinary kidney system, systems the body can use to regenerate. We all know the body can repair itself. Regeneration is actually the norm. If you cut yourself, it'll heal. If you break a bone, it'll heal. And when you're homesick with the flu, how many of you eat less or eat something light and warm like a soup? You see? Your body instinctively knows that in order to save energy for recovery, it needs to expend less in digestion. This is what we mean when we say resource management. By eating something warm and liquid, it's much easier for the body to absorb. We can take this a step further by pre-digesting foods outside of the body. You probably haven't thought of it this way, but blending your food is doing just that. Energy is now saved in chewing and processing in the stomach. The stomach is actually a muscle, and it massages the food and breaks it down, so it can pass through into the small intestine. You should still chew your smoothies, so you release digestive enzymes, but if you blended every meal, as many athletes do after a workout, you'll save quite a bit of digestive energy. And that energy can be spent on recovery. Faster recovery for athletes means they can get back to training that much quicker, and more time spent in training means they get better, faster than the competition does. And in the case of a sports injury, it means shorter recovery times, so they're in the game more. This is something everyone wants in life, more game time at your highest level. When you visit a doctor for like a cold, they often give us medications so that we feel better while the body recovers or rebalances itself. These medications make that recovery time less painful by lowering a fever or managing a headache or stifling a cough. And given enough time, doctors know the body will correct itself and you will feel better again. In more serious situations, doctors can administer food intravenously, bypassing digestion altogether. Again, by bypassing digestion and going straight into the bloodstream, the body has more energy to spend on recovery. That's resource management. We're streamlining one area so the body has extra energy to allocate for recovery. I really want to make that clear. It's your own body and its infinite intelligence that's actually doing the work. Let that sink in. Our bodies are actually in a constant state of repair and regeneration. Not just when we're sick or after a workout, it's a daily occurrence. Our cells replenish at a rate that we each get an entirely new body every 7 years. Every 7 years, you get an entirely new community of trillions of cells. Every 7 years, you get an entirely new you. For athletes, this happens even faster, some at a rate of a new body every year. So this is another reason these healthier diets are crucial. They ensure you're eating the full spectrum of nutrients. The nutrients going into your body become the building blocks of your future self. And any athlete will tell you, if you feed your body high-quality ingredients, high-octane fuel, like a Ferrari, your body will build into and perform like a Ferrari. The examples we've listed so far, like blending your food for a workout recovery or having hot soup when sick, are just playing in the baby pool. But they're important concepts to understand. Let's take it further. How far can we go with this saving energy spent in digestion line of thinking? My first experiences with diet and recovery were with athletic performance in the martial arts. I was training several hours a day, every day, and needed to learn how to fuel the body. It quickly became apparent how differently my body would function depending on what I was eating. From there, diet took a turn in the Amazon jungle, where I was ingesting fermented herbs and traditional dietas, and learning from indigenous doctors about the Amazon's unique set of plants. But my journey into regeneration was entirely accidental. While performing stunts on a motion capture stage, I slipped off a wooden stool and twisted my ankle. It wasn't enough to keep me from performing, but each week, as I continued to perform, it would re-injure. Because of the shooting schedule, I just couldn't afford to rest it. Eventually, however, after filming ended, my ankle had time to heal. But several months later, while filming in the Wudang temples of China, I re-injured the ankle again after an exhausting day of climbing thousands of stairs. One of the students I had met earlier in the day saw me hobbling with all my gear and took me to see a nearby master. He wrapped my ankle in an herbal solution and told me to leave it on overnight and that it would heat up. But that heat was not coming from the herbs, but from the energy leaving my ankle. I didn't understand anything about energy at the time, but I was in the birthplace of Tai Chi, and I needed to be able to keep filming. It burned. It burned all night. But in the morning, the swelling was way down, and I was able to continue, and it's not re-injured since. A few years later, while visiting Egypt with the Resident Science Foundation, I first learned of the various healing pools situated in temples surrounding the pyramids. I also learned of Wim Hof and his ice water plunges. There seemed to be some sort of connection between water and healing, and we'll talk about that more in section 7. Fast forward to 3 years ago, while playing soccer, I tripped while running full sprint and dislocated my elbow. My arm instinctively shot forward to catch my fall, but at the speed I fell and the angle of my arm, the forces were too much for my elbow joint, and the bone dislocated. I heard a ripping sound and the forearm slid past my bicep. In the emergency room, the doctor took these x-rays. He was pleased that the hook here at the end of the bone had not shattered or broken. This meant my bones were both very strong and, more importantly, I would not need immediate surgery in order to put my elbow back together. They simply pulled on the forearm until it snapped back into its proper place. The soft tissue damage, however, could have been problematic, and the tearing sounds I heard meant a lot of things had ripped. Surgery was also an option here. After some research, I found that ligaments do not regrow because they don't get enough blood flow. Without blood flow, I knew this meant they couldn't get nutrients. But further investigation told me ligaments were made up of collagen. And I knew ligaments obviously grew there when I was born, so there was no reason for me to think they couldn't grow again if the body was supplied with the right materials and blood flow. So, the first thing I want to point out is I cleaned up my diet 100%. I knew from that moment forward, everything I was about to eat was going to be used to rebuild, so I went on a 100% raw and sprouted diet, eating only from the left side of the spectrum. I did not want to put a single thing into my body without life force, because I didn't want anything to deposit on the injury site. Depositing could end up causing scar tissue, calcification, or weakness later in life, and I wanted 100% use of my elbow again, not to accumulate scar tissue. For the first 14 weeks, I had my elbow in a half cast, so things could regrow while the elbow was immobilized. Every day, I ate a lot of collagen in the form of Irish moss seaweed, as well as goji berries, which increase human growth hormone. Whenever I would eat, I would then dunk my elbow in buckets of hot water and ice water, alternating back and forth. These hot and cold buckets would heat and cool the area. The heat would cause the area to expand, and the cold would contract it and also force the body to try and warm it up again with more blood. Remember, the problem with ligaments was they were not getting enough blood flow. So I was eating the nutrients required to rebuild, and as those nutrients were circulating in my bloodstream, I was directing that nutrient-filled blood to my elbow. I did this several times a day, every day. And I watched as my elbow began to regrow and areas filled in. My arm, however, was still locked in a bent position. It was at this point I began to try and straighten my arm, and it didn't move. It was literally stuck. I had intentionally not bent my elbow in weeks in order to give the ligaments a chance to regrow. Now that they had regrown, it was time to bend my arm, and it wouldn't budge. I could lean my whole body weight on it, which was very painful, but still, it didn't bend. I then remembered my ankle experience at Wudang, and so I began acupuncture on the muscle groups around my elbow, as well as wrapping it overnight in an herbal solution similar to the one I received in Wudang, a solution that will become Immortalité's upcoming injury recovery accelerator product. The muscles relaxed as the energy dissipated, and it was able to bend again. It took a few weeks of doing this to straighten it completely, but it finally did, and most importantly, I didn't have to force it or tear more things straightening it out. There was no pain, it just gradually relaxed as I kept applying the solution that heated up overnight. Now I have 100% range of motion again, and as you can see from a recent MRI, I am fully recovered. Amazing! Everything has regrown with no signs of an injury having even occurred. This is full regeneration. This is real empowerment. This 100% recovery became the foundation for everything I'm showing you in this course. Let's take a closer look at the radiologist report and really break it down. My MRI test results came back showing no scar tissue, no inflammation, no calcification, or any markers of an injury. Years after an injury, these markers impact how the area feels or whether it is weakened or one that re-injures easily or gives problems in the future. I have none of these markers because of my lifestyle and choices. No elbow effusion. This means there is no accumulation of fluid in the area. No intra-articular bodies. This means there are no small fragments of bone or cartilage floating around, which can continue to grow larger and become more calcified. No synovitis. This means no inflammation in the synovium, the membrane that lines your joints. It can become thicker or swollen with excess fluid, and an inflamed synovium can eventually destroy the cartilage and bone within the joint. My 3 ligaments regrew entirely. The ulnar collateral is normal, the radial collateral is normal, and the lateral ulnar collateral is normal. No edema in the muscles. This means no swelling in the muscles due to fluid in the tissues. And no mass effect in the cubital tunnel. Means the ulnar nerve right by the elbow is not compressed, which is the second most common nerve compression issue after carpal tunnel syndrome. This means I will always have full function of my hand. And the ulnar nerve is not subluxed, which means I won't have any severe nerve pain when I move my elbow. Now, it does say here that I have not regrown all the cartilage in one particular area completely. But this tells us 2 things. 1, I just need to eat some more and do a little more work on that area. And 2, this radiologist, Dr. Young, was looking very carefully at my elbow, which we appreciate. But I really want to reiterate that not only is the regrowing of ligaments amazing, but that my full recovery means that as I age, this joint will not give me any troubles or any pain. It's not just fine for the time being, it's as good as new. Now I want to reiterate and be very clear here to properly set your expectations. This elbow regeneration goes beyond what our 3 tinctures here are designed to do. The tinctures with this class are designed to extend your lifespan. They're bringing life force to your body, a little each day. To reach this rebuilding of body parts level of regeneration, like with my elbow, requires much more work, as you have seen. We will get into this process in future classes, but if someone has damaged their body in some way, I just want to make it clear that these tinctures are not designed to fix such things. These are specifically designed to focus on areas of your body that extend lifespan. I did want to show you the evidence of regeneration though, so that you know the process works, as regeneration is on the same continuum as longevity. It's just that regeneration requires a surplus of energy. When you understand these same concepts behind what I went through, you can empower yourself and your body. When the principles in this class are maximized and your diet becomes as clean as possible and you live entirely on the left side of our life force spectrum, then regeneration of the body, like my elbow, becomes possible. Remember, the body is infinitely intelligent, regeneration is the norm, and regeneration requires a surplus of energy. So let's go back to our spectrum and look at 3 more ways we can generate more energy. Number 1, nutrition over stimulation. Number 2, eat lower down the food chain. And 3, eat more living foods. When people want to feel energized, to feel that boost, how many of you reach for coffee or soda or some variety of energy drink? How many of you would reach for chamomile tea? You wouldn't. We instinctively know that certain foods, beyond just their caloric or nutritional value, can take us up or down. When people say they want energy, they usually mean they want to feel stimulated. But here's the catch. Every time you stimulate the body needs a little bit of recovery time. In our go, go, go culture, we just reach for another cup of stimulation. Stimulation is a conditional form of energy. For an energy boost, it will also take something from the body in return. It's conditional because there's a trade-off. Every time we artificially stimulate the body, we withdraw a little bit from the body. After years of stimulation, the body can become depleted enough that stimulation is needed every day just to feel normal. This is called being in biological debt. The body's incredibly resilient, and it'll continue way beyond what any of us could imagine. But eventually, pressing that gas pedal long enough when our biological accounts are on empty will cause the body to experience adrenal failure and crash. So, substances used to stimulate energy in the body, like processed sugar, caffeine, or even natural substances like coffee or herbs like yerba mate, guarana, kola nut, ephedra, or black tea, are ultimately detrimental to our long-term health. And the older you are, the quicker you will feel this bankruptcy. Despite the various other health benefits of teas, you'll notice that the Hansa centenarians do not drink them. Unconditionally giving foods, on the other hand, feed the body through nutrition. They give you energy without asking for anything in return. This is like putting money into your biological bank account and watching it grow every day. With a healthy account, you can occasionally enjoy something stimulating without feeling the crash afterwards. But this is because you've generated a high enough account balance to be able to handle minor withdrawals from time to time. With unconditional foods, you won't feel that crazy high, but you'll also never feel a crash. These foods are even keeled, gentle but strong. Our stamina shots do just this. They provide solid, long burn energy so you can just keep going. When working out or late in the afternoon when you should be crashing, you'll find yourself still stable. It's a foundational stability, like something holding you up when you should be tired. It's very grounded and very strong foundational energy. And when you're ready to rest at night, you'll go right to sleep, wake up recharged, and be ready to go again. This is because there's no need to recover from an unconditionally giving food. They just give. That's what they do. And your body stays in balance. What a gift. This is what we all want. Clean, calm, long-lasting energy to tackle whatever life throws at us. And to live long, healthy lives, we can't afford to burn out early. We've included several delicious recipes in our Unconditionally Giving Foods ebook that do just this. The second way to save energy and digestion is by eating lower down the food chain. Simpler foods are often more nutritionally dense. This means you'll be getting more nutrition out of smaller quantities. So, if we're trying to save energy on digestion, eating lower down the food chain means we'll be getting more nutritional bang for our buck. Let's take a little field trip here. We all learned about the food chain in school, but we're going to go a little deeper today as we re-examine the fundamentals. The lowest beings on the chain are rocks and crystals, simple minerals, followed by simple organisms like bacteria, planktons, and algae. Then we move up to plants. From there, these plants are eaten by insects and herbivores. These insects and herbivores may be eaten by carnivores, and when all of these animals and trees reach their end, fungi break them down and return them to the soil. These fungi are also eaten by insects and animals. Some animals, like ants, have even learned how to farm fungi. How amazing is that? You'll notice that the lowest beings on the food chain, like phytoplankton, algae such as spirulina, chlorella, and blue-green algae, as well as plants, are all green-colored. They contain chlorophyll and use a process called photosynthesis to transform inorganic minerals into organic material. Just know these plants are pulling minerals and nutrients up from the soil, using water and air, and with the aid of sunlight are transforming them into a form that's usable by animals. This is key. Herbivores and insects in turn eat these plants. Some of the biggest animals on the planet, like rhinoceros, elephants, giraffes, and bison, are herbivores, and they eat up to 100 pounds of plants a day. They're essentially eating stored sunlight, living water, fiber, proteins, fats, vitamins, enzymes, and converted minerals. And there are so many minerals to name besides just phosphorus and potassium found in regular fertilizers. Other macro minerals like calcium, magnesium, sodium, chloride, and sulfur, or trace minerals like gold, iron, manganese, copper, iodine, zinc, cobalt, fluoride, and selenium, and the list goes on, all can be found listed on multivitamins. These minerals are all found in healthy organic soils as well, and are converted by plants into a form that's usable by animals. This is a really important point because I know many people take multivitamins, and there are doctors who say they're beneficial and others who say you're just peeing them out. Well, this is the deal. I want you to hear this. It comes down to whether or not these minerals are absorbable by the body. This is the primary function of plants, to convert these minerals in the soil through photosynthesis into a form that is absorbable by animals and humans. Once converted, these nutrients pass directly into our cells, just like a puzzle piece. If you were to pick up a rock and eat it, however, barely any of that would be absorbed by your body. Now, obviously you wouldn't do that. It's inorganic material, but go to any restaurant and you'll see a little bottle of salt rocks ready to sprinkle on your food. And they dissolve in water, and there you go. It's in your body. If a plant has not transformed these minerals into a life-infused organic structure to be directly taken in by the cells, then it's going to pass right through the body, or worse, deposit somewhere inside the body as inorganic material. If these minerals are not processed by plants, they haven't been transformed into a form that can be absorbed. It's that simple. And your body may actually hold on to that material and deposit it somewhere in your body if it can't excrete it. I'm belaboring this point, but it is crucial to understand if you want to keep an active body later in life. This is the primary reason why people experience joint pain and people lose mobility as they age. They're basically turning into rocks. They've been ingesting a lifetime of dead, inert, inorganic materials, and these deposits harden in the body. These mineral deposits can be stored in the body as anything from kidney stones to gallstones to mineral plaque or bone spurs, or even calcification of muscles, connective tissues, arteries, or vessels. There can be general calcification anywhere in the body, so you can see how important this plant conversion process is. Without plants, animals could not possibly get vitamins and minerals from the soil. Going further up the food chain, we reach the carnivores. These are the cleaners like vultures and mollusks and the apex predators. These animals get their nutrients by ingesting other animals. While an herbivore or an insect may need to eat multiple varieties of plants, grazing all day long in order to get a balanced meal, the carnivore lets the grazing animals do all the gathering for them. The carnivore receives a complete meal from a single healthy animal. Everything that the herbivore has stored, all the vitamins and minerals and raw organ meats like liver and brain, as well as oils and fats, collagen from connective tissues, as well as protein from the muscles, gets absorbed. This is why organic grass-fed beef is considered a complete whole food. All the gathering work has been done. Each piece of the food chain has been adding its part. So, knowing this, why not eat the top of the food chain rather than the bottom? It would make more sense to eat the top of the food chain after all, as it's complete nutrition, right? Yes, but here's the next major key to our longevity and regeneration, and that's enzymes. The body is born with only so many enzymes in its system. Once those enzymes are used up, chemical reactions stop taking place and life ceases. It's that simple. It's like a gas tank that's full at birth, and then we begin driving. Foods higher up the food chain require more work from your body to break down, extract, and absorb. They use up your enzyme reserves faster and thus shorten our possible lifespans compared to other foods. Let's see exactly how this works. There are hundreds of different enzymes in the body, all helping with different chemical reactions, but they can be grouped into two major types: digestive enzymes and metabolic enzymes. As we said before, animal proteins are complete proteins, but unlike plants, animal protein must go through a conversion process during digestion to be made usable and absorbable by the cells. This is done with digestive enzymes. This is a normal process, and it's all the gurgling going around in your stomach as your pancreas and gallbladder release their digestive juices. But remember, the body has a finite number of digestive enzymes. The body also has metabolic enzymes. These metabolic enzymes are responsible for running the variety of chemical reactions in the organs and throughout the rest of the body. When necessary, these metabolic enzymes on the organs can be taken off their jobs and converted into digestive enzymes. Over a lifetime, as these digestive enzyme stores are used up, this is exactly what happens. the body starts pulling enzymes that are needed to run your own organ systems and uses them to digest food. To further belabor this point, your body's finite enzyme resources, your gas tank for life, is being used up to get about 20% protein absorption out of chicken, beef, and raw fish. Raw eggs are more usable at about 40% nutrient assimilation. So if we want to extend our own shelf life, we need to be aware of our enzyme usage. And eating higher up the food chain requires the maximum amount of digestive energy. So let's look at the alternative. Complete proteins can also be found lower in the food chain in the form of spirulina, chlorella, or blue-green algae. These algae have been studied by NASA while orbiting in the International Space Station. These proteins are about 95% assimilable and provide perfect nutrition for astronauts. These dense nutritional microorganisms require minimal work by our body. The fact is, the simpler the foods we eat, the lower down the food chain we eat, the easier these foods are to break down, and the cleaner it is on our systems to assimilate. We're still getting protein. In fact, we're getting even more usable protein this way. Making this one simple change, along with our immortality products, could add years to anyone's life. How do we know this? Oh, here comes the good stuff. Whales. Some of the largest animals on the planet eat tiny microscopic plants called phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are about as nutritionally dense a food as is possible. They're also complete meals containing everything the body needs nutritionally. Furthermore, they are alive, so they include life force. Eating this way, a whale shark, the world's largest fish, can live to be about 100 years old. This is on par with our blue zone centenarians. The bowhead whale, however, also eats phytoplankton and lives up to 200 years old. Now, that's double our lifespan. And then we come to the Greenland shark. This shark lives in nearly freezing waters and gives birth to its first offspring at around 150 years old. Researchers estimate they live past 500. Wow, 5 centuries. Imagine this world in 500 years' time. Unfortunately for the Greenland shark, they're almost blind, so they're not actually going to see much of anything. They also do not eat very much or very often, and they move very, very slowly through nearly freezing waters. But this provides a huge key to us for longevity. Their extremely slow metabolic rate accounts for their prolonged lifespan. Due to the cold temperatures, all their enzymes, all the various chemical reactions going on in their bodies are happening very slowly. These sharks are living so long because their enzyme reserves, their gas tank for life, is being spent very, very slowly. Now, we all have a finite number of digestive and metabolic enzymes, and we're seeing here direct evidence that lifespan is dependent on how quickly or how slowly enzymes are used up. That's amazing. To further prove this, we'll look at an experiment that was done using water fleas called Daphnia Magna by the research team of MacArthur and Bale at the University of Toronto. Daphnia are very small, simple organisms that are cold-blooded, so knowing that their enzyme quantity is fixed at birth, the Daphnia's lifespans should be dependent on the temperature of the water they're living in. And that's exactly what these researchers discovered. The Daphnia living in 82-degree water danced around feverishly. Their high-level activity in these warm waters used up their metabolic enzymes in about 26 days, with their little hearts beating at a rate of 7 beats per second. The same Daphnia placed in 46-degree water experienced a massive slowdown in activity. They were no longer buzzing around and feverishly using up their enzymes. As a result, these Daphnia lived over 4 times longer, 108 days. Their heart rate was less than 2 beats a second, so their movement was very sluggish, like the Greenland shark, but they had quadruple the lifespan and nearly the same number of heartbeats. Wow. So the difference in lifespan is clearly related to the speed at which we use up our enzymes. This has been demonstrated clearly by both the Greenland shark and the Daphnia. So what does this mean for us? That we should all be taking ice baths? That we should be slowing down and taking it easy? Let's go back and look at our breatharian master, Prahlad Jani. Mr. Jani passed away in 2020 at the age of 91. He didn't make it up to 100 years, despite his organs being in nearly perfect health. Some of his followers would say he became so adept at meditation that he simply left the earth when he wanted. That may be true, but there's also another possibility. Prahlad Jani did meditate most days. He wasn't running marathons. He did go for walks in the forest, but in general, from all we can tell, he was taking life much easier than most of us. Even though he was taxing his system as little as possible and bringing his life force in from other sources besides food, he was still born with a finite number of metabolic enzymes. And each day he gradually depleted his metabolic reserves. Although it was very little, it was still gradually diminishing. This tells us that even without eating, there's a limit to metabolic enzymes and thus lifespan. But here comes the punchline. Unlike meditating breatharians, the Greenland shark, and the Daphnia, humans have the largest diversity of diet on the planet. And this is where immortality comes in. It provides the third type of enzyme group, food enzymes. This brings us to our third method for extending life: eat more living foods. Living foods are foods with enzymes in them. I've mentioned the digestive enzymes and the metabolic enzymes, but again, there's a third type of enzyme called food enzymes. These enzymes come along with the food. Any food that's not cooked and still alive in a whole form with life force, which is a type of biological electricity running through it, has food enzymes in it. These foods are primarily plants. Most plant clippings can be replanted within 2 to 3 days and regrow into an entirely new plant. This is how you know the plant is still alive. Freshly grown sprouts are also teeming with life force. Seeds can be sprouted as well and eaten. Animals, unfortunately, are often cooked, and even when eaten raw, like sushi, no longer contain life force. The moment life ceases, the life force goes with it. But when eating living foods, the enzymes are active and can be used to digest the food. This means your lifespan gas tank does not get used up nearly as quickly for digestion. This is essentially the difference between the right side and the left side of our spectrum. Raw foods are the center point, providing a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning they come with all the necessary food enzymes to digest themselves with minimal impact on your body. So you're saving your digestive enzymes and never pulling your metabolic enzymes for digestive activity. But our immortality products take this even further, as they are also living foods, and if you remember, they are the furthest to the left of the spectrum than anything grown naturally, and they are abundant in enzymes and life force. We're talking hundreds of times more enzymes than are needed for digestion. This massive surplus of enzymes means your body can use them for other purposes besides digestion. Now, has the other shoe dropped? Are the puzzle pieces coming together? We don't need to slow down, take it easy, or live in cold environments. We simply need to keep our systems clean and keep refilling our gas tanks with more enzymes and life force than we use on a daily basis. And our products are putting those enzymes back into your metabolic bank account faster than anything else on the planet. This is how we are extending life. This is incredible news. We can take off these finite lifespan glasses and look through an entirely new set of lenses. The universe is abundant, and we've been living and focusing on the right side of the spectrum. All this time, we've been eating cooked foods, devoid of food enzymes, and using up our own limited gas tank of enzymes to live a steady life of degeneration of about 70 years. We've seen how by managing our resources, cutting back on digestion, and eating lower on the food chain, we can extend our lives by 20 to 30 years, like the Blue Zone centenarian. But now, we're entering completely new territory. We're leaving behind the idea that we're born with a finite number of enzymes. We can choose to eat foods and take products, such as immortality, that are abundant in enzymes. Our enzyme stores can now be replenished, and you're doing that with these products. This is how all of this becomes possible. The trillions of chemical reactions taking place in your body that generally slow down as we age can now keep going every day as we continuously and steadily introduce enzymes and life force into our bodies. We enter regeneration mode, and organisms rebuild and life flourishes. As the organs regenerate, specifically as the kidneys regenerate, they prompt the bone marrow to release a special regenerative cell called a stem cell. We'll be getting more into stem cells shortly and how all this is connected. We must also consider protecting our DNA so that our cells continue to replicate correctly over longer lifespans, and we'll be getting into that too. But for now, let us bask in the realization that we have the key to life extension, life force and enzymes. And this key is working with the infinite intelligence of our own bodies. We are maximizing our own inherent capabilities. We are living in abundance. This is the difference in living on the left side of the life force spectrum. We're all moving into our own personal blue zones, and immortality is taking us there. Welcome to a whole new world of possibilities.
Immortalité.